All right, everyone, let's talk mosquitoes. I think we can all agree that these tiny bloodsuckers are the undisputed champions of ruining a perfectly good summer evening.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think anyone enjoys that high-pitched whine or the frantic swatting that follows.
Right, and then the itching. Don't even get me started. But in getting ready for today's deep dive, I came across this pasted text, and it really made me realize how little I actually know about mosquitoes.
Right.
Like, I had no idea just how many different kinds there are.
Yeah. I think most people would be surprised. We tend to lump them all together, but there's actually an incredible amount of diversity.
The text mentioned that Anopheles and Aedes alone represent over 4,450 species. That's mind-boggling.
It is, and that's just two genera out of many. It really underscores how complex mosquito control efforts can be.
So, for our deep dive today, thought we could focus on those two heavy hitters, Anopheles and Aedes.
Sounds good. They're responsible for a huge burden of disease worldwide.
Exactly. And beyond just the annoyance factor, understanding the differences between these two can help us be more informed about how to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power when it comes to mosquito-borne diseases.
Okay, so let's start with Anopheles, the mosquito that pretty much everyone associates with malaria.
Right. Malaria is a devastating disease, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. It's caused by a parasite called Plasmodium.
So it's not the bite itself that makes you sick, but a parasite that the mosquito carries.
Exactly. The parasite lives in the mosquito's salivary glands and gets injected into your bloodstream when the mosquito feeds.
Wow, so it's like a little hitchhiker.
Pretty much. Then the parasite makes its way to the liver and starts multiplying. Eventually, it infects red blood cells, and that's when the classic malaria symptoms start to appear.
Fever, chills, that kind of thing.
Yep. And it can be fatal if not treated properly.
I read in the pasted text that Anopheles larvae actually need cleaner water to survive. Not just any stagnant water will do.
That's right. They're a bit picky in that way. They need oxygen at the surface of the water to breathe, so heavily polluted water can kill them off.
Huh. Interesting.
That's why environmental management, like draining or cleaning up potential breeding sites, can be so effective for Anopheles control.
Makes sense. So if we get rid of the standing water, they can't breed.
Exactly. And it's important to be able to identify them, too. Anopheles mosquitoes often rest with their bodies at an angle, kind of tilted upwards.
Oh yeah, like they're doing a headstand.
Exactly. That's a good way to tell them apart from other types of mosquitoes.
I'll definitely be looking out for that from now on, though hopefully not too closely.
Yeah, it's probably best to admire from a distance. And it's worth noting that while malaria is their main claim to fame, some Anopheles species can transmit other diseases too, like lymphatic filariasis.
Oh wow, okay. So definitely a mosquito we want to avoid at all costs.
That's sure.
So let's move on to the other major player, Aedes mosquitoes. It seems like they're in the news a lot these days.
Yeah, they're definitely getting more attention, and for good reason. They're responsible for a whole host of nasty viral diseases like dengue, Zika, chikungunya, and yellow fever.
And unlike Anopheles, which prefers dusk and dawn, Aedes mosquitoes are active during the day, which kind of ruins any hope of enjoying a peaceful afternoon in the backyard.
Right, they're daytime biters, especially active in the mornings and late afternoons.
So no escaping them.
Pretty much. And here's another challenge. Aedes mosquitoes are incredibly adaptable. They don't need those pristine water sources like Anopheles. They can breed in just about any standing water.
Even like a tiny puddle in a flower pot.
Yep, or a discarded tire, a clogged gutter, you name it.
Wow, so they're really good at taking advantage of human-made habitats.
Exactly. And their eggs are incredibly tough. They can actually survive drying out for months, waiting for the next rainfall to hatch.
That's incredible. Talk about resilience.
Right, they're survivors, and that makes them really hard to control, especially in urban areas where there are tons of potential breeding sites.
The text mentioned their black and white stripes too. Kind of a stylish look for a mosquito,
Yeah.
but definitely not a welcome sight.
Yeah, they're easy to spot, which is good in a way, so you can be more cautious. But it's a reminder that they're out there, and we need to take precautions.
Speaking of precautions,
Yeah.
we always talk about how bad mosquitoes are, but I was wondering, they have to be food for something, right?
Oh, absolutely. They play an important role in the food chain. Lots of animals rely on them for sustenance.
Mm-hmm.
Birds, bats, fish, even other insects. They're also pollinators for some plants.
Ah.
So we can't just wipe them out completely.
Right, that would have a ripple effect on the ecosystem.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance. How do we protect ourselves from the diseases they carry without causing ecological harm?
That's the big question.
It really is. It requires a multi-pronged approach. Environmental management is key, getting rid of those breeding sites. But we also need things like insecticide-treated bed nets, responsible pesticide use, public education campaigns.
I was reading about some really cool research, too. Genetically modifying mosquitoes so they can't transmit diseases.
Yeah, there's some really exciting stuff happening on that front. And using a type of bacteria called Wolbachia to suppress mosquito populations.
It's amazing what science can do. But in the meantime, there are simple things we can do to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. Wearing long sleeves and pants, using insect repellent, avoiding peak biting times.
And those little mosquito nets you can put over your bed.
Those are great, especially in areas where malaria is prevalent.
Okay, so listeners, as we wrap up our mosquito showdown today, we're curious, what are your thoughts? It's a complex issue,
It is. There are no easy answers.
but hopefully this deep dive gave you some food for thought.
And some tools to protect yourself.
Exactly. Stay safe out there, everyone.